That's fucking minging, that.
I tell you what that is, fucking men against fucking boys all over the fucking park. They're fucking weak as piss, they are. Fucking weak as piss.
Welcome to the ROKER RAPPORT Player Ratings podcast. And Sunderland have managed to salvage a 1-1 draw at home to Burton Albion. Yes, it really is as miserable as that. To join us on this journey, we've got Bomber. How are you doing, mate?
I'm alright, Ant, yeah. Same old, a bit Groundhog Day-ish at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the only difference is we're taking turns hosting this. I bet you're over the moon just a guest on this one.
Yeah. So just as happy as you were to hand it over on Friday, it's very much the same for me tonight.
And also, all the way from Australia, we've got Martin Wanless. How are we doing?
Oh, well, it's not the best start to the day, is it? For me, getting up at 5:30 to watch us grind out a draw against the mighty Burton Albion. But I think that's the first time we actually picked up a point at home to Burton Albion, so we're taking steps forward in some regard.
Baby steps, isn't it?
Very small steps.
I mean, at least me and Bum have got to watch it at a sensible time, and you've got to get up at 5:30 in the morning. So, if you think we're mad, then... But yeah, I mean, where do we start with that? I mean, the first half, nothing much has gone on, really. Basically, Sunderland having all the possession and not managing to really get any shots on goal. Charlie White's gone off with an injury. Martin, we're starting on that, actually. Do you think that? Obviously, with Charlie White being the Phil Parkinson's number one striker, obviously Phil Parkinson's gone now, but do you think that was a little bit of a blow, him going off so early?
Well, it's as much of a blow as Charlie White getting injured can be, really, which it shouldn't really make a scrap of difference, should it? But yes, potentially it was a bit of a blow. I don't think it had any measurable effect on the outcome of the game, to be honest. I think I would prefer to see Will Grigg come on instead of him, I must admit.
Yeah.
I know Danny Graham was absolutely pathetic, which we'll come on to, but it was a disappointment. I'd picked him for first goal scorer in our predictions in a convincing 3-0 victory, so how wrong was I?
Yeah, if anything, it's cost you a little bit of money.
It has.
I mean, we'll go on to Danny Graham. I mean, obviously he came on for Charlie White Bomb. I mean, only Sunderland can sign Danny Graham twice and him being absolutely turgid both times. It's just the typical Sunderland, isn't it?
It is. I can only come to the conclusion that it's something to do with us as a club, because obviously that spell he had in between was actually not too bad. He left us, got all right, came back to us, and just turned into a bag of shit again. Yeah, it's just not happening. I know he's not. You can make an argument that he's not been really given an awful lot of chances, but tonight, he had a good hour tonight, probably a little bit, possibly a little bit more, and I was expecting more. I agree with Mark, actually. When the board went up and it said that Danny Graham's number was on there coming on for Charlie White, I was a bit disappointed. I'd like to have seen Grigg get an hour, because actually I think Grigg probably did more in the 20-25 minutes he was on than Graham did.
I think my heart just sank because you just knew it was going to be exactly the same type of football that wasn't working with Charlie White on the pitch. It was just exactly the same again, wasn't it? But obviously, I mean, we'll go into the second half. One slight talking point on the 48th minute. Their right back goes into Conor McLaughlin. It's a genuine slip, but he got booked for exactly the same thing just before half-time, Bomber. So, do you think they're two yellows?
I mean, if the first one's a yellow, by the letter of the law, the second one should be a yellow as well. But it's one of those, isn't it, where the referees, used a bit of common sense. I think if it was one of ours that had got two bookings and therefore sending off on that, I would have been raging about it. The guy couldn't do anything about it. It's not like he's, denied a goal scoring opportunity or something like that. It's not reckless or dangerous. McLaughlin might have tweaked an ankle a little bit at worst, but strictly speaking, if he gives the first one, he has to give the second one. But
I didn't think that second one was that bad. I think it would have been a pretty harsh.
I think the first one was harsh as a booking.
Well, yeah, but I think the first one's a little bit worse than the second.
Yeah,
he just needed different studs, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. You saw, I think it was Max Powers, literally said, change your boots to him. How's that came about? But
you've got your mouldies on.
Them sand shoes, what you doing? And so it gets quite bad now in the 60th minute. What on earth goes on at the back? I mean, I think Tom Flanagan tries to be a bit more clever, gives it to Denver Hume, whose clearance is shocking. It falls to I don't know the player who put the shot in. Remy Matthews makes a Sunday League error again, and it falls to Burnham, who puts it at the back of the net, man. I mean, that's an awful, awful goal. yet again from Sunderland to concede. I mean, it's every week again now, isn't it? And it's really something that needs addressing quickly.
Well, it is. I think we've seen Remy Matthews do this on a couple of occasions now, haven't we? In pre-season, in the cup, and this is the first time it's cost us league points. That's a absolute bread and butter take, isn't it, for any keeper? And League One defenders and League One keepers aren't going to be perfect every week. And we had a good spell at the start of the season where we were pretty solid defensively, didn't we? And there's absolutely no way in the world that we're going to clean sheet our way to victory, which makes that performance. Look, tonight's performance was just a carry on of what we've seen over the past few months, wasn't it? Where we've got a decent amount of possession, we don't look really threatening. We try to work positions out wide, get the ball in, rinse and repeat until something hopefully drops for us and we score a goal. And we're making mistakes at the back week in, week out, as you say, aren't we? And that's
why do we look so leaky though? All of a sudden we looked really, really strong, and now we just look so leaky. I mean, we're conceding goals at our own downfall. I mean, that's at least 3, right? Obviously, it is 3 in the last 3 games, which is so easily avoidable. And I just can't understand why all of a sudden we're looking that leaky. Is it pressure? Is it because not quite sure?
Who knows? I think potentially that run of form early in the season was just a bit of luck rather than a standard that we could keep up all season. But it wouldn't be an issue if we were scoring 2 or 3 goals. And tonight, we're playing against a team who's, I had a look, they've conceded 28 goals in 14 games this season, right? They've got the second worst goals conceded record in the bloody division, and we didn't have a shot until
we didn't threaten
75 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And
well, eventually when we did
if we're scoring those we're not talking about those defensive mistakes too much.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And when we eventually did threaten, which again is so, it just reminded me today of a Phil Parkinson-esque performance, because as per usual, we didn't threaten properly until the last 10-15 minutes. And when we did, Bomber, obviously Will Grigg came on. We changed the formation, which Phil Parkinson's never done. So, we will give Andrew Taylor a little bit of credit for that, to bring Will Grigg on. And he looked a lot more better. He looked more sharp than what Graham did. He hit the post and then had a header just wide on the 80th minute, which was better from him, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a strange one, because it's probably the best cameo appearance that Will Grigg's had in a long time for us. Like I said right at the top, he probably did more in that 25 minutes that he had than Graham did in the 60-65 that he had. And he did look sharp. And, he did more running than Graham. He won more possession. I think he set up a couple of half chances as well with balls in behind.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be the same old story for Will Grigg, doesn't it? That for all the good that he does, he just can't buy a goal. Just absolutely cannot buy a goal.
The one that hit the post was very, very unlucky. He did everything right there, and 9 times out of 10 that'll go in. He is unlucky there.
But that has been the story of his time with us, really, hasn't it?
Yeah. But I think for whoever comes in, the next manager who comes in, I said this a year ago when Phil Parkinson to come in, the most important thing will be to get Will Grigg firing.
Yeah.
And in that little cameo he's done there today, it just gives you that little bit of hope that if we can get a manager in who knows what he's doing, plays attacking football or whatever, then he will end up getting us goals. I don't know what your opinion is on him, Mark.
Well, he's the only player in the squad who's got a record of getting a half decent amount of goals at this level, isn't he? And like you, when Parkinson took over, and I'd said that was the number one thing he had to do was figure out a way to get Will Grigg scoring. Start last season, I said that was the biggest thing Jack Ross had to do, and that's the key to it. And that header that hit the post, his movement there was nice. He anticipated the ball coming in, he got onto it. As you say, 9 times out of 10 that goes in. And I just think he was so unlucky at the start of the season. He had a similar game against Hull where he made some nice movement across the defenders, got some. It was 2 offside goals against Hull in the League Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
and he had a not so good game against Bristol Rovers where he didn't do too badly, and he's been frozen out. And I just think that's a key. For us to go up with this squad, a manager's got to figure out how to get him scoring, and it's got to start with giving him a run of 5 or 6 games, saying, "Look, you're in the team, get comfortable. We're going to try to set you up." But the pressure, he's under so much pressure every single time he gets 10 minutes, half an hour, even a start. He knows he's going to get 60 minutes, and if he doesn't score, he's coming off. Well, under Parkinson, maybe 80 minutes.
I think obviously it might be well, obviously you don't want to wish an injury on anyone, but the injury to Charlie White, if he's out for 2 or 3 weeks, is the perfect excuse now to play Will Grigg.
It depends who comes in, doesn't
And
it?
give him that, like what you say there, give him that 3 or 4 games where he's, just to get his confidence back up, because, like I say, I mean, he was the only one, him and Max Power today, I thought were the only two who looked like they wanted to play forward attacking and wanted to score goals. And we'll go on to Max Power's goal now, Bomber, with, for once, a good delivery from Denver, really good ball in, and a nice cushioned header. It was a good goal at least. It might give him a little bit of confidence, because he's not been great, has he, recently? So it might, put him back to where he wants to be.
Yeah, so his form has been poor, Power. And, apart from that one cross, Hume probably had one of the worst games that he's had in a long while for us as well.
Yeah.
He was very, very wasteful on the ball. His crossing's never been great, but it was particularly poor today. But yeah, when it mattered, he pulled one out the bag. Max Power's come into the box late, has not been picked up, and he's done very well in directing the header into a place where the keeper can't get to it. It's obviously something that he's picked out. He's kind. You can see by the way he's headed the ball, he's kind of picked that area of the goal out. So fair play to him. And like you said, he was one of the few today who can hold their heads up a little bit with their performance, and it's much needed. Because I think a lot of people have turned against Max Power in recent weeks for his performances.
Me included. But in all fairness, I thought he was really, really good today. Obviously, I mean, we didn't particularly threaten after that. We had all the ball, but they backed off. Obviously, we got a really worrying looking injury to Luke O'Nien. Looks like he's done his collarbone or his shoulder or something. So fingers crossed Luke's not badly injured. But in the game, obviously ended after that, and so we have drawn 1-1. So what we'll do is we'll go into the player ratings. We'll not rate the caretaker manager because really it's a pointless exercise. But we will just kind of tip on him now of how well you actually think he did. Obviously with 2 days preparation after Parkinson got sacked. We'll start with you, Martin. How did you think Andrew Taylor did on his probably one and only game for Sunderland?
Well, I just hope it is his one and only game, because I think we need to get rid of anybody who's had anything to do with Parkinson out of the club and just have a fresh start. Like, that performance was just a rubber stamp of what we've seen over the past few weeks, wasn't it? The setup was the same, the tactics were the same. I saw some people saying, we started the game a bit brighter than we had done and playing a bit better. I didn't see it at all. It was just very much the same as what we've seen. I think the only thing you can give him a bit of credit for is that he changed formation and made some earlier subs, but it was just the same stuff going on. And I think to be fair to him, he's only been coaching for 3 or 4 months. I think he retired at the end of last season. He's only recently
retired, hasn't he? He hasn't really been a coach for that long.
No, that's right.
He's not been at Sunderland for long at all.
He was playing under Parkinson. Parkinson's the first manager he's worked under. And, in reality, Parkinson offers him the best chance of getting his next job. So is he really going to want to change things dramatically and show Parkinson he was getting it wrong? Or is he going to try to keep it the same? So, yeah, hopefully we've got somebody else in by Saturday. The
one thing he said at the start of the game was he wants us to play with freedom. That wasn't freedom. Well, no. It wasn't anyway.
No, like Mark said, the first kind of 10 minutes, we perhaps looked a little bit brighter in that we were getting about the pitch. It's seemingly a little bit quicker. We don't think we were necessarily playing any better. I think the only argument that you could say that there was a little bit more freedom was that whenever Embleton picked the ball up, he was looking to go forward, but again he was quite wasteful with it. There were a couple of times he just run straight into defenders. So yeah, I wouldn't say we necessarily played with freedom. I will give him credit for starting Embleton in the first place. It's something that everybody's been crying out for a while, and he did that. He changed the formation to a more positive formation, taking Flanagan off and putting Grigg on. And the substitutions he made were, compared to Parkinson's at least, were positive. So he was trying to win the game. You can't argue with that. But yeah, anyone expecting a massively changed starting 11 today with a completely different style of play after you've got Parkinson's gone out the door 2 days before and Parkinson's man still in charge, you're in dreamland a little bit.
I agree with you both, actually. I agree with what you're saying about the positive subs, because had that probably been Parkinson, you'd have probably brought McFadden on for Hume or something like that, and made like substitutions, we probably would have lost the game. But I also agree with what Martin's saying. I just want every last sort of memory of Phil Parkinson erased from this club. So, and if that includes Andrew Taylor, which is harsh as it is, I just want him gone.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with Martin that I can't. The longer the takeover stuff goes over, I can't see somebody necessarily being back in charge for the. Is it Wigan on Saturday? Isn't it?
Yeah, it's Wigan.
Yeah. I think we might see him for at least one more game.
See, that's why I'm kind of veering off the point of the player ratings a little bit. But
we are. I promise we are going to talk about player ratings.
That's why I was really keen for a caretaker appointment to take place, and whether that was I'd said on the website, Peter Reid and Kevin Ball, 2 or 3 weeks, buy them some time, get some fresh voices in there to pick up as many points as possible in between Parkinson leaving and the new manager coming in. I think to get rid of Parkinson, but to carry on with the same voices and the same coaching staff and the same style of play, it's an exercise in futility, really.
Yeah, I'm sure we can talk about this for an hour, but we are restricted, so we'll go on with the players' ratings. I'll start off with Remy Matthews, and I've given him a 3 just for that goal. It's just shite. It's awful goalkeeping. It's not the first time he's done it this season. If Lee Burge isn't fit, bring Patterson in, because Patterson can't do any worse, and Patterson's a half-decent goalkeeper. So I just don't want to see Remy Matthews wear a strip for us again, because it's it's 3 times this season now he's made a mistake like that, and he's only played 5 games. So it's obviously he's not a good goalkeeper. Luke 9, Mark, obviously with that injury at the end, which we wish him the best, but yeah, a bit of a quiet game from him, I thought.
Yeah, I'd given him a 6. I thought he linked up well with McLaughlin down the right-hand side in the first half especially.
Yes, he did, yeah.
Pushed on a bit, give us some width. I thought he did all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, disappointing to see him go off injured, and that's something that might force a change of formation with losing him for a spell, which it looks like he will be out for a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree, yeah. Speaking of Conor McLaughlin, Bomber, we'll go for him. Again, an improved performance from him.
Yeah, another solid performance from him, actually. I think he's certainly in kind of the top 2 or 3 or possibly 4 that we saw right there today. He's hit a decent run of form, and my opinion of him from when he first came to the club and we were trying to play him as right back and right wing back compared to what I see him now as a right centre back, and even playing as a centre back too. They're worlds apart. So I gave him. I originally was going to get up for a 7 for him, but I've settled on a 6. Didn't want to get too hyped up on him, but it's a very high 6, and long may it continue. To be fair, because he's given any potential manager coming in something to think about in those central defensive positions.
It's a good 6. A good 6. We'll give him that. Speaking of a 6, I've gave Bailey Wright a 6. Again, it's just for their striker barely touched the ball, and I thought Bailey Wright mastered him quite well. I still think Wright has gone off the boil from what he was at the start of the season. The fact we're conceding silly goals, he should be marshalling that defence, but it wasn't his fault for the goal. He's not done much wrong today, so I can't give him any lower. Tom Flanagan, Mark.
I've given Flanagan a 4. I just thought he was poor. Gave the ball away, out of position. Nah, not for me.
Yeah, enough said. Just enough said about Tom Flanagan there. Bomber 10 for Hume, bar the goal, as you've just said, bar the assist for the goal. Very poor, wasn't he?
Yeah, so I've given him a 5. It probably would have been a 4 if it wasn't for the assist for the goal, because that one cross was a very, very good cross. I mean, he did try and do what he normally does and pick the ball up and drive and deliver balls in. It just wasn't coming off for him. I apportioned just as much blame for him for the goal we conceded than Tom Flanagan, because he ran a good 20 yards back to his own goal, then tried to be clever with it in the corner, and his clearance just was poor, and it went straight back to their right hand side. I think it was their right back. So he's got to take a share of the blame for that. So yeah, it's a 5, but it would have been a 4.
Yeah, no problem. And sticking on the 5 front, I've gave Grant Ledbetter a 5. I just think he needs a rest. He just looks as if he needs a rest at the minute. Quick and tidy again, but the game's passing him by a little bit too much for my liking. Martin will go for Max Power, like we've said, touched on an improved performance.
Yeah, I thought it was. He's obviously been out for a few weeks, and he seemed to have a little bit of a point to prove. I thought the first half he was sort of driving forward a bit more than we've seen other people who have been playing in that position do. He's a little bit hit and miss in the first half. I thought he stepped it up a little bit more in the second half, and obviously got a nice goal. So I've given him maybe a slightly generous 7, but slightly better than Bomber's high 6. So yeah, I'll stick with a 7, a low 7.
Yeah, he's the only 7 I've actually gave, to be honest. Bon, we'll go with Josh Scowen.
I think he was a bit anonymous, really. It's one of those that we've said about him and a couple of others for the last 3 or 4 player ratings pods. You could have been forgiven for thinking that he wasn't necessarily on the pitch. He had that one header in the first half, which, I can't. I'm not going to really criticise him for, because it was probably too high for him to get his head onto it. Other than that, I can't think of anything he did, good, bad, or indifferently. So he's got to be a 5 for me.
Yeah, cool. I've gone for Elliot Embleton. Thought he was, trying his best to be, as influential as he could. Some things came off, some things didn't. That's probably youth on his, to be honest, and inexperience, but steady 6. Mark, obviously Charlie White was only on for 17 minutes, so you can take Danny Graham. We'll not bother with Mark and Charlie.
Are we allowed to give minus ratings?
if you want, yeah. It's a first, but you can.
Seriously, like 1, 0, -1. I just thought he was so ineffectual. It was embarrassing. He lumbered about the pitch. He couldn't get onto the ball. He couldn't win a header. He couldn't hold the ball up. He only came to life a little bit when Grigg came on. And to be fair to Danny Graham, maybe that's to do with the service that was coming in with a 2 up front and 4 at the back. But look, Danny Graham's got the legacy of his previous spell with us clouding everybody's judgment of him. But I just thought he was horrendous. We might as well have just gone down to 10 men for all the good he did.
A scathing review at the end there.
Martin's not his coffee yet, is it?
Which, to be fair, he's not wrong. So I'll just quickly rattle off Chris Maguire and Will Grigg. Hard to say that. Maguire, I thought, again, just ineffectual, so I've given him a 5. Grigg, I thought he was very, very good when he came on. Nice, quick cameo. If he'd been on for longer, I think he would have got a 7. I think we probably would have won the game if he'd been on for longer, but I've given him in words of Bomber, a high 6. So what we'll finish off with, lads, we got the news today that it was player and our kit man, John Cooke, has been given his redundancy. We're hearing that it was actually 2 or 3 months ago, but the news has only just come to light now. Me personally, I think it just sums up Stuart Donald's tenure and the current ownership's tenure at this club. Like, it's absolutely pathetic. How they can, first of all, leave it this long to let us know that Cookie's gone. Cookie is huge at Sunderland. Anyone who, is in and around Sunderland knows who Cookie is. And to actually treat a long-standing employee like that is absolutely disgusting. And I really think you should hang your heads in shame. Matt, I know we spoke off air about it, and you had some words to say about that as well. Yeah,
well, I actually don't. I'm not sure if the club have let us know or not. I think it was one of the local journals had reported it.
Yeah, it was.
And look, that sort of decision sums up how absolutely tone deaf the vast majority of things that have gone on in the past 18 months at Sunderland Football Club have been. Like, how much money are you saving, really, to get rid of a kit man who's been there for so long? In the grand scheme of things in the football club, it's going to be nothing. It's going to be minuscule. I think Craig Russell's gone at the same time as well. And, again, somebody who's been associated with our club for a long, long period of time. And, I can only hope that these sort of things rectified, addressed and changed under a new ownership, because the longer there's a disconnection between what goes on at the top of the football club and in the fabric of the football club and, the disconnect with the fans, things like this, while it might seem small decisions to somebody sitting there, the CEO or whoever's made the call, it might seem a relatively small decision to him, but you're ripping up the fabric of the club, and it cannot continue because there's not going to be anything left. Yeah, totally agree with you. Bomber, do you have anything to say on that as well?
I don't. Anything that would kind of explain it any better than Martin has, really. Just to echo what he said, it's blindness, deafness, dumbness from the club, and just to echo what Martin said, it needs to stop. And those holes that are being ripped into the club need to be patched up, but patched up by different people who are running it.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with both of you there. I think it's just, like I say, it's just completely compounded and summed up what this ownership has been like over the last 2 or 3 years. It's just shambolic, and we'll leave it on that quite shocking note. I do wish Cookie all the best as well. If you are listening, John, you're an absolute legend as Sunderland, so I really wish you all the best, mate.